What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of the Vine and Branches podcast. We hope you're having a good day, and if not, hopefully we can make it a little bit better. We're going to be reading chapter 7 of John, so if you want to follow along, turn there. We're going to be starting with verse 1. After this, Jesus went about in Galilee. He would not go about in Judea, because the Jews were seeking to kill him. Now the Jews' feast of booths was at hand. So his brothers said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea, that your disciples also may see the works you are doing. For no one works in secret if he seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world, for not even his brothers believed in him." Jesus said to them, "My time has not yet come, but your time is always here. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me, because I testify about it, that its works are evil. You go up to the feast, I am not going up to this feast, for my time has not yet fully come." After saying this, he remained in Galilee. But after his brothers had gone up to the feast, then he also went up, not publicly, but in private. The Jews were looking for him at the feast and saying, "Where is he?" And there was much muttering about him among the people. While some said, "He is a good man," others said, "No, he is leading the people astray." Yet for fear of the Jews, no one spoke openly of him.
All right, let me stop you right there. So we got a little bit farther down into this passage of scripture, and I like kind of how this is playing out. It's kind of a story so far. So the Jews are starting to inquire about Jesus and his personality and who he is and who he says he is. There are some that are saying, yes, he is this great prophet. There's some that are saying he's the Messiah, and then there's some that are saying he's leading others astray. And so I think about our world today, and I think we are kind of in the same boat where there's some people who are like, yes, Jesus is my God. He's the Christ. He's a Messiah. And there's some people who think that Jesus is just a myth. And so you can see that the doubt, even though Jesus was there, the doubt in our human minds and our carnal minds, it was still there. So that's kind of what I got out of this. What did you get out of it?
The thing that stuck out to me the most was verse 6. It said, Jesus said this. He says, "My time is not yet come, but your time is always here." That he's talking about his time to, perform miracles and do all these things. Because when his mom asks him to turn the water into wine, he also said that my time's not
Or do you
come.
think by saying my time is not here, do you think he's talking about his time to be crucified?
In my mind, I was thinking about him doing these things because he's saying our time is here. So we can go do those things now. But I see what you're saying too. I mean, we should always be ready to die. We don't know when it's coming.
Yeah, for sure.
It could literally be like instantly.
No, I agree. I was just trying to kind of see
Throw
what
a
you thought
curveball.
about that. Yeah, I was trying to see what you thinking about that. But yeah, I think he's talking about his works and performing these miracles and how he's not quite, not that he's not ready, but that God's timing is not right for him to go here and perform such and such miracle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, verse 14. About the middle of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and began teaching. The Jews therefore marveled, saying, "How is it that this man has learning when he has never studied?" So Jesus answered them, "My teaching is not mine, but his who sent me. If anyone's will is to do God's will, he will know whether the teaching is from God or whether I am speaking on my own authority. The one who speaks on his own authority seeks his own glory, but the one who speaks the glory of him who sent him is true, and him there is no falsehood. Has not Moses given you the law? Yet none of you keeps the law? Why do you seek to kill me?
Yeah, let's stop right there. I think that's pretty powerful what Jesus says through verse 16 through 19. I think that's pretty powerful. It's talking about these words that he's speaking is almost not of his like heart and his like flesh. It's oh, I've been off in the wilderness with my father. I'm coming into town. I'm full of the Spirit and I'm speaking what he wants me to speak. And so that's where Jesus is at, and he's saying, yeah, all this stuff that I know is not out of my own authority. I don't know this stuff on my own accord. It's the Father, the one who sent me, that's relaying this stuff to me and giving me this wisdom.
Powerful. I agree.
Yeah.
Super. Verse 20. The crowd answered, "You have a demon who is seeking to kill you?" Jesus answered them, "I did one work and you all marveled at it. Moses gave you circumcision, not that it was from Moses, but from the fathers. And you circumcise a man on the Sabbath. If on the Sabbath a man receives circumcision so that the law of Moses may not be broken, are you angry with me because on the Sabbath I made a man's whole body well? Do not judge by appearance, but judge with right judgment." Some of the people of Jerusalem therefore said, "Is not this the man whom they seek to kill? And here he is, speaking openly, and they say nothing to him. Can it be that the authorities really know that this is the Christ? But we know where the man comes from, and when the Christ appears, no one will know where he comes from." So Jesus proclaimed, as he taught in the temple, "You know me, and you know where I come from, but I have not come of my own accord. He who sent me is true, and him you do not know. I know him, for I come from him, and he sent me." I want to stop right there and talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about that?
I loved it. I liked the way he refers to the Father as the one who sent him. I mean, he does that a lot through this whole passage.
Yeah, he reignites that thought of, oh, I'm not here on my own accord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here out of my own doing. I'm here on behalf of God the Father, the one who sent me. And so I think that's pretty powerful that he's re-prefacing this, and it's almost out of a place of humility, because he understands, Jesus understands that, yes, I'm fully God, but also I'm fully man. And so I do not have all the answers, because that's how God limited himself. That's how Jesus limited himself when he came down to be flesh, is he stripped himself from being all-knowing and being unbound of time. He stripped himself of that. And so he's saying, basically acknowledging that he is now has a carnal mind and he is a human being. And so all of this stuff is and all these things that he's saying, I think, is out of a place of humility.
Absolutely. And the fact that we're supposed to follow Jesus's example, and so we're supposed to go where the Father sends us.
And I think it's kind of cool how Jesus, which is, we know that he's God. He's fully God and fully man. Jesus, who's God, is saying, I come of my Father's accord. And so if literally the Son of God is saying, I'm not here because of my own accord, and he's even glorifying the Father in everything that he does, what should we do?
Powerful. Verse 30. So they were seeking to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him, because his hour had not yet come. Yet many of the people believed in him. And they said, when the Christ appears, will he do more signs than this man has done? The Pharisees heard the crowd muttering these things about him. And the chief priest and Pharisees sent officers to arrest him. Jesus then said, I will be with you a little longer, and then I'm going to him who sent me. You will seek me and you will not find me. Where I am, you cannot come." The Jews said to one another, "Where does this man intend to go that we will not find him? Does he intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? What does he mean by saying, 'You will seek me and you will not find me, and where I am, you cannot come'?" He's talking about heaven right there, obviously. You agree?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I don't know, actually. I don't know if he's fully talking about heaven. This is a little bit of theology, and I'm not too up to date on this, or what. I'm not even really sure what I think about this kind of part of theology. But I think if I'm remembering right, there's this place, almost like this mediator place where everybody before Jesus has gone to, and so I think that he's talking about that in this passage, because the reason that he said you cannot go here is because if he was talking about heaven, my thing is that would be a false statement, because I can go to heaven through Christ. And so maybe he's talking about heaven and saying you can't get there alone. You can't get there without me. But I also think that, yes, I can get to heaven, so that would be a false statement. But I think that once Jesus dies and he goes, I think there's a theology where he basically preaches in this mediator place. And so everybody that's died before Christ has come has the chance to receive Jesus as well. And so I think that that's kind of the place, because we can no longer go there. Does that make sense? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I've heard of it, and I had to look up the term for it because I knew there was a word for it, but I couldn't remember. And they call it purgatory.
Yeah.
Is that middle ground?
And I'm not sure how much I believe that, or if I really because I've never really looked into that. I'm always focused on, Jesus did this, and so now I don't even have to worry about that place, right? And so
because it doesn't
matter in our culture or in our world today, because there's only two places you can go now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to be going there, so it doesn't matter that much to us. But it is an interesting concept.
Yeah, that'll be a good question to ask some other people when we get some more people on the podcast with a little bit more knowledge than us. To ask them some questions like that. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Absolutely. What verse were we on?
37.
Okay. On the last day of the feast, the great day, Jesus stood up and cried out, "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as the scriptures has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water." Now this he said about the Spirit, whom those who believed in him were to receive. For as yet the Spirit had not been given, because Jesus was not yet glorified. When they heard these words, some of the people said, "This really is the prophet." Others said, "This is the Christ." But some said, "Is the Christ to come from Galilee? Has not the scripture said that the Christ comes from the offspring of David and comes from Bethlehem, the village where David was?" So there was a division among the people over him. Some of them wanted to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him. The officers then came to the chief priests and Pharisees, who said to them, "Why did you not bring him?" The officers answered, "No one ever spoke like this man." The Pharisees answered them, "Have you also been deceived? Have any of the authorities of the Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd that does not know the law is accursed." Nicodemus, who had been gone to him before, and who was one of them, said to them, "Does our law judge a man without first giving him a hearing and learning what he does?" They replied, "Are you from Galilee too? Search and see that no prophet arises from Galilee." That is the end of chapter 7.
Yeah, what do you think about that last passage?
I think that's very interesting that they're so quick to judge based on where somebody's from. I think that's a human fleshly thing that we do.
Yeah, I think we a lot of times compare ourselves to others.
Yeah. And when we see somebody that even when we know that they're better, we're quick to want to put them down because we don't want to be less than. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I believe that the Pharisees were like selfish and didn't want him to be greater than them. I think that was a big mindset that they had in the moment.
Yeah, I think that they were trying to compare themselves to others to try to get around the fact that they themselves were like sinful people. And so, like, obviously Jesus had done nothing wrong and does nothing wrong his entire time on earth. And yet there's these people that are trying to make accusations towards him, and they're trying to find a fault in him, and they can't. And I think that the reason for that is because they're jealous, honestly.
Yep. Yeah, that's so interesting that they're so quick to do that, you know?
But aren't we today too?
Yeah.
We're
absolutely.
so quick to judge and try to compare ourselves to others just so that our sin doesn't look as big. And I think that's why God doesn't want us to judge ourselves according to other people's like things that and blessings and all these things. Like we can't compare ourselves to others, because when we do that, we naturally try to make up reasons in our brain that our sin is okay. We tolerate our own, but we can't tolerate other people's sin or what they have.
Oh, yeah. We just sit and try to justify what we've done wrong.
Yep. It's all about justification.
Yep, absolutely. So we notice at the end of this, it says the earliest manuscripts do not include chapter 7, verse 53 through chapter 8, verse 11. Is what my Bible says.
Yeah.
So it's not included in there. There are some more verses there put in there that aren't included.
Yeah, and that passage is going to be the woman caught in adultery. I guess we can go ahead and jump into chapter 8, because chapter 7 was kind of a short chapter. We can go ahead and get chapter 8 knocked out as well. Let's go ahead and read through the woman caught in adultery, because I think it's a really cool kind of lesson that Jesus brings about talking about it. So you want to go ahead and jump right into that?
Absolutely. Start of chapter 8. They went each to his own house. Verse 1. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in the law Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say? This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. And as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones. And Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus stood up and said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, No one, Lord. And Jesus said, Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more.
Dude, I really love this story. I think it's kind of interesting how Jesus navigates his way through this. Obviously, I think that he knows that they're trying to catch him in an act of doing something wrong. And how he navigates it, I think, is pretty cool. I kind of have something I want to share about this passage, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I want to see what you think about this first.
Okay, shoot. Oh, you want to hear what I think about this?
Yeah, I want to hear what you think about this before I share what I've seen it like on a different podcast. I watched it and I heard this dude say something, and I want to kind of run it by you and see what you think. But before that, I want to...
The first thing I see is the last verse that we read. He said, Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more. I think it's very interesting that he just immediately is like, I don't condemn you. You're okay. But go and sin no more. He's not saying that sinning's okay, but he's showing his mercy and grace in that moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. What I was going to say is I watched this thing, and it was basically saying when they're trying to catch him in this act of like disobedience to the law of Moses, and he bends down and puts his finger in the sand and draws like something. It doesn't say what he draws, but I heard something that said this guy was saying that basically right here Jesus could have been saying, I'm the one who wrote the law by like drawing in the sand. Basically saying like giving an analogy, because we know that when Moses went up to get the tablets, it was the finger of God that was writing it. And so also he bends down into the sand and writes something. So I don't know if that was actually what he was trying to convey, Jesus right there, but I think that was kind of a cool, just like reference to when Moses got the laws. And I don't know if Jesus is actually trying to do that there, but I thought that was kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of like connections you can make throughout the Bible from him setting these examples to connect it to the Old Testament. We just went through our first semester and read through like the whole Old Testament pretty much, and set and like broke it down to how it connects to when Jesus was on earth. And the amount of connections you can make is pretty crazy. So that I've never heard that, but that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's what Jesus was really doing, because obviously it doesn't tell us what he was writing or anything, but I think that would have been a cool kind of like symbolization, because the tablets were written with the finger of God, and so maybe the Pharisees like even gathered that much about it too, and when he bent down and wrote in the sand, I think that would have been a good kind of way to shut him up.
Yeah, and maybe that's why it didn't state what it said, because it didn't need to. It was just setting that example of what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. A little bit cool to think about, though.
Yeah. A little food for thought.
Yeah.
Okay, verse 12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So the Pharisees said to him, You are bearing witness about yourself. Your testimony is not true. Jesus answered him, Even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I came from and where I am going. But you do not know where I come from or where I am going. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. Yet even if I do judge, my judgment is true, for it is not I alone who judge, but I and the Father who sent me. In your law it is written that the testimony of two people is true. I am the one who bears witness about myself, and the Father who sent me bears witness about me. They said to him, therefore, Where is your Father? Jesus answered, You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. Real quick, that kind of gives a perspective to the Trinity right there, where he says, if you knew me, you will know my Father. It's pretty interesting. That's what I got.
And it kind of ties back into when he says, you can't get to the Father except through me.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't know me, you're not going to know the Father. And I kind of want to, while we're stopped, I kind of want to backtrack into this first part of when Jesus is speaking in verse 14. And he says, even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I came from and where I'm going. But you do not know where I came from or where I'm going. And so I want to kind of stop on that verse. And what I was kind of hearing was that this is kind of for us too. How is somebody that you share your testimony with going to tell you that your testimony is wrong? Because they don't know where you came from and they don't know where you're going. And so I think that's just kind of just encouragement to kind of share, your testimony with other people, because that in itself is kind of how God works. God works off of testimony. And I love how he kind of says that, like, how are you going to tell me that, like, where I came from and where I'm going? Like, how are you going to tell me that? Like, you have no clue. And so I kind of saw that through for my life. I don't think Jesus is necessarily talking about that. He's saying, obviously, in a heaven sense, in a spiritual sense, like, I know I'm going to, go and die on a cross. Yeah, he knew the future. He knew what his ultimate fate would be. But I kind of love how I felt like God just kind of brought that to my mind. Like, nobody can tell you that your testimony is wrong.
Amen. Yeah, totally. And even if he's, I love the way that the Bible can speak to us even when it's just a connection we make in our brain, that it's the living word, So even that connection you made just right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. One of the other verses I liked is he says, I judge no one. Yet even if I do judge, my judgment is true, for it is not I alone who judge, but I and the Father who sent me. The reason I like that is he's talking to these people and he goes, I judge no one. And then he goes, but even if I did,
it'd be true.
It'd be true. So
Yeah.
you can't, it's such a, cuts him off. You can't just come say, oh, are you sure you don't judge anybody? It's like, no, even if I did judge.
Yeah, my judgment would be true. Kind of a crazy line when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. I love that. That was awesome.
And I can also just tell Jesus is just kind of getting annoyed with the Pharisees and how they're trying to catch him and, whatever. And I feel like Jesus is just kind of getting annoyed right here. Like, even in that verse, like I don't judge people, but if I do, it would be true. Like, it's almost like Jesus is trash talking right here. And I kind of like that. It just kind of gives me a look into his personality.
Oh, yeah. For real. Okay, verse 20. These words he spoke in the treasury as he taught in the temple, but no one arrested him, because his hour had not yet come. So he said to them again, I am going away, and you will seek me, and you will die in your sin. Where I am going, you cannot come. So the Jews said, will he kill himself, since he says, where I am going, you cannot come? He said to them, you are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. I told you that you would die in your sins, for unless you believe that I am he, you will die in your sins. So they said to him, who are you? Jesus said to them, just what I have been telling you from the beginning. I have much to say about you and much to judge, but he who sent me is true, and I declare to the world what I have heard from him. They did not understand that he had been speaking to them about the Father. So Jesus said to them, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing on my own authority, but speak just as the Father taught me. And he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him. For he was saying these things, many believed in him. Wow.
Yeah, that passage is powerful. And I kind of even see Jesus being a little bit annoyed in this passage too. Just kind of his tone, I think. Obviously, we can't really know what his tone was, but I'm sure he was just kind of like, not aggressive, but very stern tone at this point.
Yeah.
Because he's almost in an argument with the Pharisees about who he is. And I think Jesus is getting a little bit annoyed because he's like, I've already told you who I am.
Yeah, right there where he says, just what I've been telling you from the beginning.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what makes me think that he's a little bit annoyed at the Pharisees right now. And obviously he loved the person behind like the Pharisee or whatever. Didn't love the sin, didn't love how they were like disguising their sin on the inside by looking good on the outside. He hated that. And he hates when we do that too. And so I think that Jesus was being a little bit of annoyed, but you can see that he's still pursuing this soul and saying, you're going to die in your sins unless you believe that I am he. Like, it's still out of a place of love, and I think that's so powerful.
Yep. Verse 31. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." They answered him, "We are offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free?" Jesus answered them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. The son remains forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I know that you are offspring to Abraham, yet you seek to kill me because my word finds no place in you. I speak of what I have seen with my father, and you do what you have heard from your father."
Yeah, let's stop right there. There's some powerful scripture just talking about specifically John 8:32, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. I think that's such a powerful verse because in the verse before it, he's saying, if you abide in my word, then you are truly my disciples. And so, what do you think that word abide means?
Abide, in my mind, is to deeply sit and think and meditate on and just
to me, it's a
full
word
dive
of connection.
That's good.
If you're in connection with my word, to me, in order to connect with somebody or connect with something, you have to agree with what it's saying. And so it's saying, if you're truly connected with my word and you believe that those words are true, then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And I think that's kind of powerful. And it teaches us that all we really need to do is know the truth. And once we know the truth will start to set us free from the inside out. Because once we know the truth, then the lie has no power.
Absolutely. And when you said that about abiding, it made me think of, you could use the term abiding in the way that you would live with someone or something like that. So I thought that was really interesting. In fact, I looked up the term abiding and the definition because I wanted to read what it said. It says this: accept or act in accordance with a rule, decision, or recommendation, or to be able to tolerate someone or something.
Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly. I mean, when you believe and you act out in these things that the word says, then you're truly his disciple. And when you're truly his disciple and you are abiding in his word, then the truth will set you free. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, very. Okay, verse 39, I believe, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. They answered him, "Abraham is our father." Jesus said to them, "If you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works Abraham did. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. This is not what Abraham did. You are doing the works your father did." They said to him, "We were not born of sexual immorality. We have one father, even God." Jesus said to them, "If God were your father, you would love me, for I came from God, and I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? Whoever is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not of God."
Yeah, that's powerful. Why do you think, I'm asking you a question, why do you think that he said to the Pharisees, you are of your father, the devil?
I think that's very interesting that they use that term of father. Father was a big thing back then. People would say, for me, I would be like, "Oh, I'm Gabriel, son of Chris," right? It was a big identity part of whose son you were.
Lineage was a big part in that culture, for
Absolutely. Sure. And I think number two, a big part of the father term was, we talked about this in some past podcasts, of the idea that the sin nature and inheritance and all these things come from the Father, from your Father, right?
Yeah.
That your earth, you inherit these things from him. I think that's kind of reasons why he would use the term Father in this sense, that they're getting this sin nature and these things from the devil, right?
Yeah.
And so when they're gaining it from him, he refers to him as the Father. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit that right on the head.
You would agree?
I would agree.
Okay.
I think that he's talking straight to their identity. And they're walking in this like this better than attitude and this prideful attitude of I'm so good, and what do you think Satan did? You know, he believed that he was greater than God, and so then he tries to rebel and he falls. And so I think you hit it right on the head. I think it goes back to their identity. And so where did that identity originate from? Well, Satan was the first one to do it. Satan was the first one to have pride. And so I think you hit that right on the head.
Yeah, and we see that that idea of the lineage mattering so much right there when they talk about Abraham and how they're sons of Abraham. So we see that lineage idea right there too.
Yeah. And I also like about this scripture that you can kind of see a little bit into the personality and just who the devil is. It kind of gives some insight to the devil's identity and how he likes to work and what he's about, because he calls him the father of lies.
Yeah, that kind of off topic. That idea of learning his tactics is a thing we should do. And to anybody that hasn't read the book, Screw Tape Letters is amazing. C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, I actually got that book and I haven't read it yet, but I'm excited too. Yeah.
Dude, it is insanely good. It's really good. If you can understand, like, it definitely takes a different mindset because you're reading basically letters, right? Yeah. But if you understand, like, the way they're talking and why they're saying what they're saying, it's really neat to read.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
One of my favorite things in the book, while we're on this train, one of my favorite things is so Screw Tape, and there's another one named what's his name? I want to say it's Wormwood.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Wormwood. So there are these two demons. They're talking to each other. One's a nephew, one's the uncle. And Wormwood is like the demon of this dude, to give you the backstory to the book, right? And he's trying to make this dude fall. And then Screwtape is basically the uncle, and he's like nurturing and like
coaching
teaching
him, kind of.
Coaching. What a great word. Yeah, coaching this dude and how to make the dude fall, right? And at one point, Wormwood's like, yeah, dude, he's getting humble, man. And Screwtape goes, well, just let him know he's getting humble. Because even in our minds, the moment we start thinking, oh, I'm pretty humble, you've already failed at being humble.
Yeah.
And so when he says that, it's such a good perspective. Just let him know he's being humble.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, dude. That book's crazy.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to read it. Hopefully I can get some time to sit down and really break that one down. Because I think it is powerful to kind of know the devil's schemes and how he likes to work and how he likes to mess with us.
Oh, yeah. Verse 48, the Jews answered him, are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? Jesus answered, I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. The Jews said to him, now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, as did the prophets. Yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. And you greater than our father Abraham who died? Or are you greater than our father Abraham who died? And the prophets died. "Who do you make yourself out to be?" Jesus answered, "If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me. Of him you say, 'He is our God,' but you have not known him. I know him. If I were to say that I do not know him, I would be a liar like you. But I do know him, and I keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad." So the Jews, real quick before I keep reading, right there, that idea of truly, 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 I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. What do you think about that?
Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever keeps my word, he will never taste death. I think keeps my word in the sense of Jesus says, if you come to me, and he promises eternal life to us, those who believe and really like truly receive him. And so those are his words. And so in that sense, it's like you will truly never taste death. I think death, like in this life, death happens. It's not saying that you're not going to die like mortally. I think to me, I look at this eternally. I'm looking at this from an eternal sense. I think that, so if I'm looking from an eternal sense, heaven would be life and hell would be death. And so I think in that sense, when you keep Jesus' words, he promises, okay, I'm going to take your punishment for you. And you truly will never see death, which is hell. And so that's kind of what I think. What do you think about it?
Number one, totally agree with you. Okay. Number two, when I read that, my mind kept running on this idea of, I was thinking about the fact that when Adam and Eve were made, and then Jesus is referred to as the second Adam because when he came into the world, he was also sinless like Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And so when you're sinless, like Adam and Eve, they weren't going to die then. They were going to live.
Yeah, because the only reason we die is because the wages of sin is death.
Yeah.
We learned that in Romans. I believe it's 3:23, Romans 3:23.
Yeah.
The wages of sin is death.
And we hear it multiple times too.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I read that, I was thinking about it, and then my mind went to this place of, so if Jesus, he's sinless, if he wouldn't have taken all of our sin and then got on that cross, he would have lived forever, hypothetically. Would you agree?
Assuming he didn't sin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. That's an interesting place my mind went
and
to.
even you could think, well, that's why Adam and Eve and all the people after them lived so long, is because they were originally built to survive forever. And slowly we start dwindling off because there's more and more sin entering the world. And then eventually God says, okay, I'm capping you at 120. You won't live past 120 years. And so you can see as sin starts to creep into the world, the life expectancy drops. And I think that's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's like a disease that we slowly just get worse and worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was spot on. I like that. I had a great grandma that lived to 101. And when she passed away, she was like a week from her birthday of being 102.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. To reach 100, I don't feel like you hear a lot of people that reach 100 nowadays.
Yeah, there's a couple, but it's few and far between.
Yeah. Anywho, what verse was I on? I want to say I was like verse 57.
I believe so, yep.
So the Jews said to him, "You are not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham?" Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." So they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple.
And that's the end. Chapter 8. I think that was powerful. Just even that last little bit, 57 on. Before Abraham was, I am. So right there, what is Jesus saying? Jesus claiming to be God in this passage. Would you agree?
Yeah, obviously.
And some people will come in when they debate whether, Jesus claimed to be God. Some people will come in and debate and say, well, he never like straight up said, I'm God. But when you realize that in this passage, when you look at it and you say, oh, he said, before Abraham was, I am, and then the people picked up stones to throw at him, they clearly understood what that meant, and they understood. They were like, yes, this dude is claiming to be God.
Yeah. And when he performs miracles, they're just like, oh, what an amazing dude this is. And then the moment he claims to be God, they view it as...
Now they pick up stones.
Yeah, they're ready to kill him.
Yep.
And yeah, obviously, because back then, to claim to be God, that was kind of a really big deal to people.
Yeah, that would have gotten you killed. It would be a big
deal nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, chapter 7 and chapter 8 were really powerful.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to say before we end?
No. I don't think so. So, hope you all have a blessed day.
We'll see you tomorrow for chapter 9.